A week ago, I started to follow him. He had nothing. Just like me. Now,
Full payment.
shopping, cars, women. Wow.
The police are searching for a man.
I
in
thought he
connection with
robbed a bank.
robbery.
He told me someone gave it to him.
Someone got to me.
In China's massive lineup of gods, there's one category that basically everyone knows: the god of wealth. But here's the thing, not just one god. It's more like a team, a weird, historical, slightly chaotic team, made of ministers, generals, businessmen, and even some unexpected figures. And here's something important. The god of wealth in Taoism and the one people actually worship in everyday life, not the same thing at all. In Taoism, the god of wealth is basically a government official. There's a system, a hierarchy, rules, very bureaucratic. But in folk culture, the god of wealth is human, or at least used to be. It's more like a mythological Avengers team. Whoever represents justice, loyalty, or hope, whoever people trust, gets promoted straight into the wealth department. So today, we're not talking about divine job titles. We're talking about folk's version, the one people actually believe in. Before we get into them, there's a pattern here: east, south, west, north, and center. This comes from an ancient Chinese system called 5 elements. It's a 3,000 years old balancing system. So these 5 gods of wealth don't just represent people, they represent a complete system of balance. Let's start with the east, Bigan. Back in the final days of Shang Dynasty, things were bad. Corruption, chaos, a king completely out of control. And in the middle of all that, Bigan stood up, alone. He argued, he protested for 3 days straight, trying to save the country. It didn't end well. The king had him executed, and according to legend, had his heart cut out. Now, here's where it gets interesting, because in folk logic, no heart equals no selfish desire, no bias, no greed, no corruption, which makes him perfectly fair. And let's be honest, if there's one thing people hate, it's unfair wealth distribution. So they picked Bigan, the man with no heart, to manage fairness in money. Next, the South. Tyrone, an emperor, but not your typical one. Before he ruled, he was a businessman, a real one. He traveled, he traded, he knew how money actually worked. Then he became emperor and did something rare. He fixed the economy, encouraged trade, reformed currency, boosted industries. Basically, he understood that wealth doesn't come from luck alone, it comes from systems. So in folk belief, he represents something bigger than money: economic structure, long-term prosperity. So in folk belief, he represents something bigger than money: economic structure, industry, long-term prosperity. Which is why entire industries, ceramic, construction, mining, treat him like their patron god. Now the West. Where knew? Originally, a general, a warrior, a legend from the 3 kingdoms. But in business culture, he became something else entirely, a symbol of trust. There's one story everyone knows. He was offered wealth, power, comfort by Cao Cao, and what did he do? He returned everything, left and went back to his original lord. No hesitation. And one decision turned him into something bigger, a moral standard. So when merchants worship Guan Yu, they're not asking for money. They're asking for honesty, loyalty, and fair deals. Because in business, trust is money. Now things gets a bit darker. North, Tao Gongming. Unlike the other, he was already a god. A Taoist deity, titled Marshal of the Dark Altar. Black face, wild beard, white's a black tiger. And not exactly subtle. But here's the twist. He didn't start as a wealth god. He used to be in charge of plagues, disaster, disease. Then at some point, career switch. Now he control wealth, but That passed, it stayed. Which is why people believe he doesn't just bring money, he protects it from bad luck, from risk, from things going wrong. So if your business is risky, investment, side hustle, uncertain income, Zhao Gangming is your guy. Finally, the center, Wang Hai. Not a general, not a minister, a pioneer. He lived in the early Shang period and did something simple but revolutionary. He started trading, using ox carts traveling between tribes exchanging goods. And because his tribe was called Shang, which means in Chinese commerce, those activities got his name. So the word merchant in Chinese literally means people of Shang. That's literally where the word merchant comes from in Chinese. So Wang Hai isn't just a wealth god, he's the origin of wealth itself. No trade, no economy, no wealth gods. That's why he sits in the center. Everything starts with him. So when you look at the Chinese wealth system, you're not looking at religion, you're looking at a value system. Fairness, Bigan, structure, Chiron, trust, Guan Yu, protection, Zhao Gangming, origin, Wang Hai. Different people worship different gods because they want different things. And that's what makes this system so human. It's not about magic money, it's about what people believe money should be. So, some people might be wondering, where do you actually worship the god of wealth? Do you need a temple? Is there a correct pose? A secret ritual? Well, not really. In folk Chinese belief, the whole point isn't about going somewhere far away. It's about bringing the god of wealth into your house. Literally, the whole inviting the god of wealth thing is actually a very Chinese idea. You take something abstract like money, luck, financial success, and turn it into a relationship. Something you can talk to, maintain, live with. Kind of a relationship binding. Because in this system, wealth isn't fixed. It moves. And if you don't invite the god of wealth in, he's basically just wandering around. No address, no long-term commitment. Going into a temple, that's like calling customer support, bringing him home. That's signing a contract. And that's the deeper logic here. You're not just placing a statue, you're setting up a kind of household order and a set of expectation. In southern China, especially in coastal business regions, some families take this very seriously. They don't just have one god, they build a whole system. You could almost call it a divine office at the front door. The front door, the earth god. Basically, security. Inside, higher up, the civil god of wealth. Handles accounting, stable income. And off to the side, commercial god of wealth. Security again, but aggressive. No universal blueprint, but the logic shows up everywhere. Now, if you actually want to invite the god of wealth, there's a process. First, timing. The most popular day, the 5th day of Chinese New Year. Welcome to the god of wealth day. As for direction, depends who you ask. There's no single answer. Second, clean yourself up. Take a shower. Change clothes. Not because the gods are picky, but because you need to take it seriously. Third, offering. For the civil god, like Bigan, fruits, sweets, flowers. Clean, simple, respectful. For the martial god, like Guan Yu, meat, alcohol, more intense. And yeah, this changes depending on where you are. Fourth, the ritual part. Light incense, open a window. This is like to let the wealth in. Realistically, it's about creating the moment, making it feel real, and then the most important step, make a wish and keep your promise. This is where it gets very Chinese. Your wish has to be specific. Not I want money, more like I want this. I want the company's revenue to exceed 1 million this year. I want to go through, this deal to go through. Clear, measurable. And when it comes true, you have to pay it back. Because the whole system runs on something very simple, trust. There is even a saying, don't make empty promises. If you get what you want and don't follow through, congratulations, you just broke a contract. with a god. And there's even a classic story. A scholar once promised to offer a whole pig if he became successful. He did succeed. Then he looked at the price of a pig and changed his mind. So he made one out of dough. That night he got yelled at in a dream. Is the story real? That doesn't matter. The point is, don't cheat the system. That's also where this phrase comes from. Easy to invite God, hard to send one away. Not because it's scary, but because once you start a relationship, you expect to maintain it. There are also some rules. Civil gods face inward. Bringing money into the house, martial gods face outward, keeping the troubles out. Keep this place clean, which honestly just makes sense. Don't argue in front of the altar, because at the end of the day, this whole thing is built on one idea. Harmony brings wealth, and once you set it up, you don't keep changing it. Because stability is part of the deal. Now zoom out for a second. In a lot of Western traditions, gods are creators. But in China, a lot of gods used to be people, officials, generals, merchants, regular humans. They lived, they made choices, and those choices got remembered, retold, upgraded, until eventually they became gods. That's the real logic here. It's not about becoming something beyond human. It's about what you leave behind. Because money fades, statue disappears, but behavior, character, that sticks. And sometimes, if it's strong enough, it becomes something people believe in. So in a way, gods aren't far away. They're just the best version of people we decided to remember.